The holidays are upon us, and many of us will be stepping into the homes of friends and family, bringing along a small gift for the host. But have you ever wondered why we do this? Today, I'm going to look back in time to see where the tradition of the hostess gift began, and how it became a quiet language of gratitude, hospitality, and shared table warmth. Welcome, I'm Stephanie. I'm so glad you're here. This is Cooking 100-Year-Old Recipes. And here I do cook 100-year-old recipes, some less old recipes, and I look back at food history. If you like that sort of thing, I'd love to have you. Please consider subscribing. In the earliest days, hospitality wasn't optional, it was survival. In ancient Greece, Rome, and later medieval Europe, offering food and shelter to a traveler was a sacred duty. Guests often brought simple tokens in return: a loaf of bread, a small pouch of salt, a beeswax candle, offerings to thank the host for warmth, protection, and kindness. These gifts were practical and symbolic: bread for sustenance, salt for preservation, light to chase away the darkness. The first hostess gifts weren't decorative. They were blessings exchanged by those who depended on one another to endure the night. By the 1600s, hospitality became a sign of refinement. As tea drinking spread through Europe, the act of calling, or visiting a home, evolved into a social ritual. Guests brought sugar, citrus, or sweet preserves, luxuries of the day, to express gratitude. In colonial America, handmade gifts became symbols of community. Things like embroidered linens, jars of preserved fruit, or bottles of cordial from the family garden. A guest who arrived empty-handed wasn't impolite, but one who came bearing something thoughtful was remembered fondly. By the Victorian era, gift-giving had become an art form. Etiquette manuals declared that a guest's offering should be, quote, useful, tasteful, and never ostentatious. A handkerchief embroidered by hand, a posy of flowers tied with ribbon, or a small sachet of lavender. These were not mere trinkets, but reflections of character. The hostess, too, was judged by the warmth and refinement of her table. Dinner parties became performances of grace, conversation, and generosity. In this age, the hostess gift became a delicate language of gratitude, a silent way to say your effort matters, your welcome is appreciated. By the 20th century, the world and hospitality had changed. Mass production and modern travel brought convenience, but also a new kind of social ritual. The hostess gift became simpler. Things like a bottle of wine, a box of chocolates, a bouquet from the corner shop. Yet, even as the gesture became easier, its meaning endured. Through wars, holidays, and decades of change, the act of showing up with something in hand remained a small, graceful way of saying, "Thank you for including me." Now let's look at the meaning of some of these gifts very specifically, and I'd like to start with the tradition of the housewarming basket. When we think of housewarming baskets today, we think of taking a charming little basket of this and that over to our loved one's new home. The housewarming basket quite literally means the warming of a new house. This was a basket of warmth taken when someone moved into a new home centuries ago. It would be the first gift brought to their door, and it certainly did not contain flowers or wine. Inside the basket was a small vessel of glowing embers, taken from the giver's own hearth. Today, we might light a candle to make a space feel welcoming, but before matches and easy fire making, a home could not function without its fire. Sharing embers meant you will not face the cold alone. Your home is warmed because your community stands with you. Over time, other symbolic items were added to the basket, and I will go over each of them next. Bread and salt is perhaps the oldest form of the hostess gift. It appears in countless cultures. Bread for sustenance, salt for preservation and friendship. Together, they symbolized life, hospitality, and the wish that a home would never know hunger or hardship. The Victorians believed that flowers spoke when words could not. Roses for gratitude, rosemary for remembrance, lavender for devotion. I talk more about the language of flowers in a Valentine's Day video. I'll link it here. It's pretty interesting. I talk about chocolate, the origins of the Valentine's Day card, and which flowers are given and to whom they are given. Candles have long been more than just a source of illumination. For much of history, a candle was literally the gift of light, a deeply practical yet symbolic offering. In the centuries before electricity, homes depended on the hearth fire for light, warmth, and cooking, but fire was fragile. A strong draft, a careless moment, or a damp evening could easily extinguish it. And once the flame was gone, night fell completely. Darkness wasn't just inconvenient, it could be isolating and unsafe. So gifting a candle was more than offering a simple object. It meant safety, comfort, and connection. In earlier rural communities, especially in medieval and early colonial periods, candles were often made from tallow, a rendered animal fat. These candles burned with a smoky, wavering flame and carried the faint scent of the hearth and the farmyard. They were everyday candles, humble but essential. More precious were beeswax candles, golden, slow-burning, and clean. Beeswax was far more difficult to obtain, as it required tending hives and the seasonal gathering of honeycombs. These candles were reserved for churches, celebrations, and significant gifts. To give a beeswax candle was to offer something of real value, almost a luxury. In some regions, families gathered together in the colder months to make their yearly supply of candles. Wax was melted in great pots and wicks were dipped again and again, layer upon layer. A single candle could take dozens of careful dips before it was ready. It was labor, patience, and warmth made tangible. So when a candle was given as a hostess gift, a housewarming gift, or a holiday gift, it carried quite a message. Even today, when our homes glow at the flip of a switch, we still reach for candles when we want to create comfort. The flame still feels sacred. It slows us down, softens the room, and reminds us of our connection to one another. And perhaps that is why candles continue to be one of the most universal, timeless, and meaningful gifts we can give. Even though our traditions have changed across time, the heart of hostess gift giving remains beautifully simple, to offer warmth, gratitude, and welcome in return. In earlier centuries, a hostess gift was rarely expensive. It might have been a bundle of herbs from the garden, a jar of preserved fruit, a loaf of bread, or a small beeswax candle made at the hearth. These were everyday things, but they carried deep meaning, as we've covered. We can still honor those traditions today. A homemade jar of jam or chutney echoes the old custom of sharing part of one's harvest. A hand-blended cocoa mix or mulling spice blend offers warmth on a cold evening. A simple beeswax candle still whispers, "May your home always be filled with light." These gifts don't require extravagance, only time, care, and a bit of thoughtfulness. And if you're curious how to present these gifts in a way that feels special, I've added a gentle tutorial on my other channel where I show you how to wrap jars in fabric in the old-fashioned style. It's a small touch, but it turns a simple jar into something that feels truly kept, given, and loved into being. Because at its heart, the tradition of the hostess gift has never been about the object itself. It has always been about the connection between people. Do you have a favorite gift you like to take to your hostess? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.